Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to this course Infrastructure Economics. I am Nalin Bharti, teaching economics at IIT Patna, and let me begin this course with introduction to infrastructure economics. First of all, I would like to have the discussion on two different words, economics and infrastructure. So, what is basically economics? The general meaning of economics, studies of human behavior as a relationship between ends and the scarce means, because there are a scarcity of resources in the world. More we are developing economically and socially, we need more resources to utilize, but at the same time world is not having all the resources ready. There are developed countries with lots of resources, but at the same time they have to also depend on other developing countries for different resources. Developing countries are also not equipped with all technological know-how and development which they require for further development. Less developed countries are more scarce in terms of resources, and at the same time they also require development, they also require economic growth. So, we find here that no country in the world today is fully equipped with all the resources. Somewhere we find a scarcity of labor, somewhere we find a scarcity of capital, somewhere we find a scarcity of technology, and we are finding here that world is interdependent in terms of development, in terms of economic growth. So, economics is the study of how society use those scarce resources to produce valuable commodities and distribute them among different people. So, economics is thus the study of scarcity and analyzes the relationship rational behavior of the choice at the micro level, and it is very difficult for an economy, for an individual, for a society, for a state to find out what model, what development model they have to adopt when they are using or when they are practicing development and achieving certain goals in terms of economic growth. So, the general meaning of economics is to have the maximum utilization of resources which is available in the economy, or if it is not available in the economy, how to manage those resources from the neighboring country or from some other part of the country or from outside the country. So, through this activity we do economize the productivity, we do economize the cost of production, and these are the achievements of this particular science named as economics. So, let me begin with a new word, infrastructure. In this module we are going to discuss the meaning of infrastructure, and then we will discuss what is basically infrastructure economics and how this infrastructure economics is different from other economics. At the same time we will also discuss about what are the main features of infrastructure, what are the types of infrastructure, and how we will find out whether the infrastructure is in the developed stage or infrastructure is in underdeveloped stage. What are basically the indicators of infrastructure development? So, let me begin with the first concept, meaning of infrastructure. Generally, infrastructure is a system of public works in a country, in a state or a region, that includes road, utility such as telecommunications, bridges, different other public utilities such as airports, roads, buildings and parks and so many other things which is generally built up in a very not in a very short period of time, but in a very long period of time. Infrastructure development is completely different from other development, because if we have to produce some agriculture production does not require 20 years time or 10 years time to have that productivity. But when we have to build up some certain infrastructure development needs planning, because infrastructure refers to the structure or underlying foundation or network which is used for providing goods and services. So, it is the lifeline which a country is developing. It is a long run process in which we are involved to satisfy the future needs and the future generations requirement. At the same time, we do care for the current requirement of the population, current requirement of the economic growth process. We are building infrastructure in a way that can lead us for the long run achievements and the sustainable achievements which is more required today, because taking lessons from the infrastructure from different part of the world, we can today realize that infrastructure development should consider the environmental aspect, because lots of infrastructure projects in India and outside India is now realizing that it should not be on the cost of environmental degradation or environmental loss. So, when we say infrastructure, it is not only a very short run process which one can build up, a country can build up within a month or within a year, but it is a continuing process. There are certain agencies which do develop the infrastructure, and sometime it is developed by the government, sometime it is developed by the partnership between government and the private parties. So, it is the basic facilities and services that are necessary for carrying out the economic activities and which help in economic development of the country. These basic facilities do not produce goods and services, but it do help to produce, it do help to facilitate the production and distribution process in a country. That is the advantage of infrastructure. So, infrastructure is basically the backbone of the economic development. Today, we cannot say that a country can really have a fast economic growth and a very fast economic development without having the infrastructure in the background. So, if you can see today the entire development of most industrialized countries and developed countries, we are not finding that these countries are developed just because of the lack of infrastructure, but these countries has a tremendous developments. For example, Japan or United States or Germany or France, these countries are really developed in last 200 years just because of their constant involvement in infrastructure development and infrastructure maintenance. So, there are certain examples which we are also going to discuss in this course from newly industrialized countries, which has also proved that nothing can be achieved without infrastructure. So, it's basically the basic facility which facilitate for the development and production and distribution in a country. So, we cannot really work, or we cannot really dream, we cannot really achieve any growth and development in any part of the world without a proper infrastructure support. And so that this particular course, infrastructure economics, is important in terms of understanding the linkage between the infrastructure and economic growth. At the same time, to understand how infrastructure is being developed, what are basically the partners in infrastructure development, what should be taken care during the infrastructure development, what are the missing point in infrastructure development, what lessons we can take from the developed country, what lesson we can take from the successful examples of infrastructure development, what lessons we can take from the failure of the infrastructure development projects within the country and outside the country, how infrastructure development projects are different in developing countries and how infrastructure development is different in least developed countries, and so that this particular course will give you a broad range of understanding about the infrastructure development and the meaning of infrastructure in terms of economic well-being as well as social well-being. Because infrastructure, when we say infrastructure, the first thing which comes in our mind is the building or the road or the towers or something, but the fact is that infrastructure is not only the thing which we are seeing in front of us, but there are certain hidden infrastructure. For example, the social infrastructure, which is different from the physical infrastructure. We are going to discuss this particular aspect of infrastructure also, but I thought that it is better to first introduce the meaning of infrastructure, and then after discussing this, it will be more appropriate to distinct between the different aspect of infrastructure, different types of infrastructure. So, when we say what infrastructure economics is basically doing, and what basically infrastructure economics is helping us. Infrastructure economics basically attempts to study the infrastructure from the economic point of view, because lots of a majority of the production activities, it cannot be successful, it cannot be profitable as long as the production is not reaching to the consumer or to the last consumer of the economy. So, how to bring those produced material to the consumer, that is one of the major tasks for the producers today. For example, one can say today that yes, if the production is over, through the advertisement we can reach to the consumer. Answer is right, answer is not wrong, but at the same time the point is how you will deliver to the consumer. Advertisement cannot deliver the product to the consumer. Advertisement can only give certain idea to the consumer that what this product is and what merits this product is having, but at the same time what you need is the connectivity between the consumer and the producer through the roads, through the flyovers, and through other communication services, and through other transportation activities. Then only you can really carry the product from one part of the country to other part of the country, one part of the country to other part of the other part of the world, and within the economy also you can really supply the product on time. At the same time, when we say production and consumption, the production cannot be possible without having the inputs available with the producer. Infrastructure helps to cut down the cost of the inputs. If you have the express highways, if you have the proper rail linkage, if you have the proper air connectivity, if you have the proper connectivity through the sea, then the product which you are producing and the raw material which you are using, it is very easy and very cost effective to achieve those inputs, those raw materials from different part of the economy and also from different part of the world. If you do not have connectivity in terms of road, in terms of rail, in terms of airways, if you do not have that connectivity, certain raw materials may be available in the neighboring country, but you cannot have such a possibility to get those raw materials. In such a situation, you are having the capability to produce something, but you are not able to produce anything because you are not able to have the inputs with you, because the cost of inputs are so high, because it is stuck somewhere on the way, and ultimately you are not in the position to get it on time, you are not in the position to get it on low cost, and since you are not getting it on time and not getting it on low cost, so your cost of production is rising up. And as we see today, because in some of the module we are also going to discuss how open the world economy is today, and in this open economic model how infrastructure is going to help you to achieve certain targets and to be a competitive partner in the world economy. The moment your cost of production is very high, you are not the part of the competition, because in terms of production, competition is nothing except maintaining the cost of production at a very low level, so that you can beat, you can compete, and you can become the leader in the production in the world today. Many newly industrialized countries, we are going to discuss today certain examples from different part of the world, where we will find out that there are many economies of the world such as Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, Japan already developed previously, but Hong Kong, Singapore are some of the examples which has proved that very quickly, within 20 years, within 30 years time, within 2 decades or 3 decades, they have proved that they can do wonder in the world, and they became certain leader of the products, certain leader of producing some of the items, and many developed countries are also in the position to compete with them, and still they are challenging certain developed countries to compete. This happened, this magic happened not because they have never thought for infrastructure, but this magic happened because they always thought for infrastructure development, and they always realized that how infrastructure is really one of the important point and important target to achieve, which is always going to help the economy for the long run development. So, infrastructure economics, which we say that it basically attempts to study the infrastructure from the economic point of view, is very important, because it is the only one point which makes the difference between the developed, developing and less developed stage of the economy. All the production activities, all the economic activities of demand and supply is linked with the infrastructure today. India needs more food production in coming years, India needs more electricity today, India needs more transportation facility today. So, this is the demand of the economy, but in terms of supply of the infrastructure, different agencies, different private parties are ready to produce some certain infrastructure, but it also required the partnership from the government side. It also requires certain freedom from the investor side, certain freedom from the government side to catch those investment. So, this particular demand and supply gap in terms of infrastructure, which is also named as the infrastructure gap, is seen in many developing country, and this gap is very wide in basically the least developed country. Developing countries are trying to narrow down this infrastructure gap, and the least developed countries will take years to narrow down or to reduce this gap in terms of infrastructure. So, this infrastructure gap leads in terms of this infrastructure gap leads to have a further gap, which is called the development gap. Because if you have point 1 missing, you have point 2 also missing, because both are interconnected. 1 and 2 is interconnected. So, the mismatch between demand for infrastructure finance, because infrastructure needs a huge finance, because it is always difficult to build up the infrastructure. It is all capital intensive and technology intensive development. Infrastructure is not only the labor intensive projects, it is always depend on the huge finance and support, financial support from the partners. And at the same time, when we have this mismatch between the demand for infrastructure and the supply of inevitable funds, the infrastructure gap do emerge in the economy, and that leads for many years. And there are certain examples in the world which has tried to reduce this gap, but there are certain examples in the world which has still trying hard to reduce this gap, but they are unable to do it because of many political and social factors. So, there are costs involved in the infrastructure and there are benefit involved in the infrastructure projects. So, many developing agencies of infrastructure are basically managing the cost benefit analysis of the infrastructure, and whether how much they can put and how much they will get it in as the return on infrastructure development. And through this activity, the mismatch between the infrastructure demand and infrastructure supplied can be easily understood, because a society which really needs more vibrant infrastructure development, that also needs more vibrant investment in terms of FDI or in terms of FII, foreign institutional investment, which we are going to discuss in detail very soon. And investor needs return on infrastructure, because without having a proper return, why anybody will invest in a country and why anybody will develop the infrastructure. And when there are certain return on infrastructure investments, there are certain good sign in terms of economic growth, because the good message is running across the world that a country like India or a country like Singapore or a country like Taiwan is building this infrastructure, and it is good to have infrastructure development in those economies. And at the same time, other FDI investors also look for those destinations where the rules for FDI is very normal and where the gains are better, where the entry is easy, where the exit is easy, at the same time where the other economic growth process is also smooth. So, we will also discuss in this particular course about the models of infrastructure development. There are different models of infrastructure development through the previous examples of the development in the world. We are finding that it is very difficult and challenging for the government today to only have the investment from the public side. Public investment is declining everywhere, and public investment in infrastructure needs certain support from the private investors, and there are PPP model, public private partnership model, adopted in the world today. And these models are important because we are not really today, we are not only living in a closed economic model. Closed economic model are those model where economies are basically looking for their own resources, and the production is subject to the domestic consumer, local consumption, and the economy is not really looking for outside the boundary of the consumption or the productivity. So, closed for an example, if we have to define closed economic model, and where the Y is the total output of the economy. So, Y will be equal to the C consumption plus investment plus government expenditure. So, this may be treated as equation 1. But when we basically make the economy open, as most of the economy today is open, we are not really having closed economy at the mass scale. Most of the economy are exporting, importing lots of things, and in this situation, the models of infrastructure development cannot be only based on the government expenditure. When we say open economic model, the equation will be completely different, and the equation will be C plus I plus G plus export minus import. So, when we say open economic model, when we say export and imports will be applicable in terms of the total output of the economy or the GDP of the economy, in that case we are allowing other investors of the world, and we are also allowed to invest outside. So, the economy is not really restricting anything in terms of production. At the same time, economy is not really restricting anybody to come in and not restricting anybody to go out in terms of investment. So, when we have to understand economic system today, our economic system, for example, India, one of the largest economy of the world, or even China, another economy, largest economy of the world, is not only looking only for the public investment or the infrastructure development through the government support only, because neither we can afford that and nor we should do that. Since our economic model is open, economic system is open, so we are looking for partners. We are looking for partners in production, we are looking partners for infrastructure development, electricity production, communication. Telecommunication is one of the example where we can find out that how there is a U-turn in India or in many part of the world from a system where we were having a completely non-digital telecommunication system. Now we are having a completely digital telecommunication system, and telecom used to become telecom was one of the luxury in a country like India. For instance, I have waited, my house has waited for around 3 years to get a BSNL telephone connection, long time back, before 20 years. And today every member of the family is having a mobile connection. How this happened, how this magic happened? India became one of the major partner in the world today, major subscriber in terms of telecommunication today, and we do have the cheapest call rate today in the world. How this magic happened? This magic happened because we have allowed private investors to join our hand. It was impossible for BSNL or MTNL to have that level of tele-density, to achieve that level of tele-density, and 90 crore subscribers having mobile sets or telephone connectivity. It was not possible, even it was not the dream of India in 1991. So, but soon after the economic reform process started in 1991 in India, we are finding that today it is not the luxury, but it is the necessity. In fact, many people are having 2 different SIM cards and 2 different mobile phones, and that shows that how investment in telecommunication is really played a very positive role in terms of telecommunication development. And this is one of the successful example for anybody to understand as a part of infrastructure economics, and there is a impact of such activities, such development on other sectors also. So this particular module 1, in this particular module 1, we must focus the difference between the economic infrastructure and social infrastructure, because the economic infrastructure is the basic facilities which directly benefit the process of production and distribution in an economy, such as road, railways, telecommunication, waterways, airways, financial institutions, electricity, water supply, etc. But at the same time, this is not only the infrastructure which should be considered as the infrastructure in toto, but there are certain infrastructure which is named as the social infrastructure, and these social infrastructures are the facilities that do not directly influence the economic activity, but indirectly have an impact on the economy through achieving certain social objectives. For example, education. It is not directly influencing the economic activities, but it is indirectly influencing the skill development of the citizen, well-being of the citizen, better level of understanding in the society, and it has the indirect impact on the production and distribution. And such not only education, but also health services, sanitation, these are also some of the social infrastructure which is equally important when a country has to really achieve a fast economic growth and development targets. Because economic infrastructure can help us in production of goods and services, but the social infrastructure helps us for many years in terms of designing the economic development and growth, because more you have the educated and healthy citizen, more you have the good production system, because only they are basically the real customer as well as the input in terms of labor. So, it is not only when we say infrastructure, it is not only the physical infrastructure which do see on the roads as a part of construction and other activities and telecommunication and waterways or airports, but it is also the hidden infrastructure. Social infrastructure is hidden infrastructure, and Sen and other economists has proved that how this social infrastructure, especially education, health, do wonder. Singapore, many Asian countries, Sri Lanka is one of the successful example of the world today, which has proved that this type of hidden infrastructure has a very positive role in the economy, and they are really the major contributor in terms of well-being of the economy. So, there are we can have the types of infrastructure, rural infrastructure, urban infrastructure, irrigation and rural connectivity, rural roads, power, these cold storage facilities. This may be considered as a part of rural infrastructure. We can have urban infrastructure such as water supply, sanitation, telecommunication, internet. There may be core infrastructure such as road, railways, airports, seaports, waterways, energy. These are the core infrastructure, and that is really needed in the rural area, urban area. At the same time, social infrastructure, which we have already discussed as the health, education, housing, hospitality, and there are land intensive infrastructure such as special economic zones, industrial parks, townships, IT parks. These are basically the land intensive infrastructure which requires a major area of land. And how we say that whether the infrastructure is in the developed stage or underdeveloped stage. So, per capita electricity consumption may be one of the indicator for infrastructure development. Per capita energy use, kilogram of oil equivalent, that may be another example. Telephone line per 1000 population, rail density per 1000 population, air transport and freight million tons per kilometer, and roads as a percentage of total roads, how much we are developing per year. And at the same time, there are certain social infrastructure which can be also taken care as the number of hospitals per 1 lakh population, number of primary and middle school, and at the same time number of high schools. These are some basic indicators which shows that whether we are really having a very good social infrastructure or not. So, to conclude, this particular introduction gives you a basic idea about what is basically infrastructure, what is basically infrastructure economics, what is basically the gap in infrastructure development, how this gap leads the developmental gap. At the same time, what are basically the types of infrastructure and how and why we need to differentiate between the physical infrastructure and social infrastructure. So, we will discuss in detail about what are basically the features of infrastructure in the next lecture. Thank you.